friendship that'll never ever end.
Run!
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Reaction Beanie 504. Jack in the neighborhood. My brothers and sisters. Thank God it is Friday, man. Thank God it is freaking Friday. TGI mother and elf. And since it's Friday, y'all know who we're about to go back to. Adrian from Coffeehouse Crime. Back to the coffee, man, y'all. Hope y'all doing excelente out there today. And I'm glad that you came on back to the channel once again. So fuck with the bean. And the title of the video is How an Influencer Couple Turned into Murder. Now, I'm a little confused by the title, y'all. I'm a little confused because I don't know if the coffee man mean that this couple got murdered by someone, or the couple did the murder, or one person within the couple murdered the other one. Like, you know what I'm saying, man? I don't really know, but I'm excited to get into it. I'm happy it's Friday. Like I said, TGI mother and elf, and I'm just ready to go. But before we go, my brothers and sisters, y'all know what y'all got to do. Get whatever you may need. Get what you need, please. We back to Adrian from Coffeehouse Crime. Y'all got what y'all need. Y'all ready to go? Then let's go.
When 24-year-old Alexis Robinault married 47-year-old Tom Sharkey, she hoped that marrying someone twice her age would bring maturity and security. Perhaps from the outside, most believed that she had found herself a strong and stable partner, and their social media certainly portrayed them as a happy, successful couple. But unfortunately, things were not okay behind closed doors, and the world would soon come to realize this when Alexis suddenly vanished. The news made her husband Tom both anxious and terrified. However, friends noticed his story would change multiple times in the days after her disappearance, especially once her body had tragically been discovered. But this was just the beginning, and how this story ultimately ends will shock you. Welcome back to Coffeehouse Crime, folks. My name is Adrian, and today we're traveling to Texas for another terrible story. Now, this case gripped headlines across the internet for all of the wrong reasons, and just goes to show that what people post online isn't necessarily true. By the way, I post stories like this up to twice a week here, so please consider subscribing if that's your sort of thing. And before we begin, here is a quick minute from this video's sponsor, June's Journey. Now, you've likely
Coffee man with his commercial, y'all. But I guess we have answered my first question as far as like what the title actually meant. The freaking man murdered the lady in the couple. You know what I'm saying? This is a couple murder. Like, this is a freaking person within the couple who murdered the other significant other. And like the coffee man said, it's going to be crazy how we get there. But one of the things that he said that I really want to point out that's always so crazy, and we have talked about it a lot of times, is that, boy, you see people on the internet and what they posting on social media, and you'll think that everything is all good. The grass is so green on that side, but you go over there and that grass is dead as hell. No pun intended. But let's go.
To you folks for supporting us content creators. And now, without further ado, please grab yourself a coffee and let's caffeinate while we investigate. This is the case of Alexis Sharkey.
Get whatever you may need.
Welcome back to the Lone Star State, folks. And of course, I'm talking about the incredible state of Texas. Now, there is no need for formal introductions here. We all know Texas to varying degrees already. And love it or hate it, it remains one of America's most iconic and fastest growing states. Gone are the days of stereotypical cowboys and saloon bars. Big modern cities like Austin, Dallas, and Houston are changing the Texan landscape, and its economy is thriving thanks to its rapid development in the biomedical, technology, and aerospace industries. However, step out of the big cities and you will still find their Wild West roots, with rodeos popping up yearly and cattle filling the many open pastures. Our story today is far away from this more rustic lifestyle, as today we're zoning in on the city of Houston. Houston is well known for its energy manufacturing, aeronautical engineering, impressive healthcare research, and of course, NASA. Although it has had impressive economic success, there is sadly no doubt that the city has had a real problem with crime and gang activity. Houston's crime rate is notably higher than the national average, and unfortunately, it doesn't appear to be slowing down anytime soon. Due to its proximity to the border, it is often used as a hub for trafficking drugs such as cocaine and methamphetamine through to the rest of the country. And what is even more unfortunate is its rapidly growing murder rate. With almost 500 people murdered within the city in 2021 alone, the rate here has nearly doubled in 2 years since 2019. Yup,
Damn.
Texas, you are beautiful but dangerous. Now,
And I knew that, y'all. I knew like Houston was one of the worst cities as far as like murder rate go in the United States. And it's right up there with Chicago, Detroit, even though Detroit have declined a little bit as far as they murder rate over the past years. But it's one of those known cities: Chicago, Detroit, Houston, Birmingham, Alabama. You know what I'm saying? Those are some of the most terrible cities as far as these murders go. And it seems like we here to find out about another one. Let's go.
of course, this is often attributed to gang warfare over turf and drugs. And so, the intelligent option here is simply to not become involved in that sort of thing. However, saying that, you will still have to watch your back here, as that does not fully negate the possibility. With such a high murder rate, it is not uncommon for the police to receive phone calls reporting the discovery of a body. But when a phone call came in on November the 28th, 2020, from a man who had just found one on the side of the road outside of town, police officers had no idea what story would unfold in its shadow. Police officers responding to the scene were met with a morbidly peculiar sight. Located just along the side of the road on Red Hall Lane, they found a pair of feet sticking out of the undergrowth. The report came in from a local sanitary worker just before 8 AM that morning. As per his usual schedule, he was cleaning the road when he came across the body in the bush. And not wanting to become involved, he immediately called the police without disturbing the scene. Upon closer inspection, investigating officers uncovered the body carefully as to not tamper with any evidence. They would soon discover that the body turned out to be that of a young woman in her 20s. And although she had been stripped naked, she had no visible signs of trauma or apparent cause of death. Evident through the condition of her body, she had likely been placed here quite recently, either overnight or the day prior. There was no indication that she had walked here on her own, and it made perfect sense for officers to initially believe that foul play was involved. So, who was this young woman? Why was she naked? What was the cause of her death? And how did she meet her untimely demise?
And I just gotta say real quick to y'all, whoever did this, well, we know who freaking did it. But he didn't really even try to put in any effort to hide her body. You know what I'm saying? Well, he put in a little effort, but it wasn't enough. Like, the way he tried to hide her body, there's no way that you ain't think nobody was gonna find her body, like, easily. You know what I'm saying, man? It's like, dude. And there's another thing that just kind of, like, get on my freaking nerves. And I'm not gonna say it is as worse as murdering somebody, but the way that these freaking murderers end up disposing of people's bodies just disgusts me too, man. Just throwing people's body in the woods, throwing them on the side of the road, digging holes and all this and that. This was a human being who was living, and now you just throwing them out like garbage in the freaking woods. That shit get on my nerves too. Let's go.
Body was transported to Harris County Medical Examiner's office later that day. However, it would be quite some time until they fully established the cause of her death. But saying that, it wouldn't actually take long until her identity was revealed. You see, a young woman had been reported as missing just 2 days prior, and this body, it matched her description. With that in mind, officers contacted the husband of the missing woman, asking him to come down to the medical examiner's office for identification. And so entered Tom Sharkey, a 49-year-old bodybuilder and menacing hulk of a man. After walking in to identify the body, Tom was sadly able to verify that it did in fact belong to 26-year-old Alexis Sharkey. The man was visibly distraught at the discovery, and it's clear that he had long held out hope that all of this would be a temporary nightmare. That not only was this body not his wife, but that eventually she would return home safely. Life can be sickeningly cruel, and his hopes were crushed without mercy. But who precisely were Alexis and Tom Sharkey? How exactly did they meet? And what would lead them to these unfortunate circumstances? Beginning with Alexis, she was born on February the 6th, 1994, and was the first child of Stacy and Mike Robinault. She was a beautiful 26-year-old woman who prided herself on her appearance. However, beneath that lovely facade was a matching personality and intelligent mind to boot. She would later gain 2 beautiful younger sisters, and the family led a peaceful and happy life, as evidenced by many various photos. While growing up, Alexis attended Youngsville High School before graduating in 2012, where she then went on to gain further education at the University of Pittsburgh. She was brilliant and ambitious, achieving a major in biology and 2 minors in nutrition and psychology. So, there is no doubt that Alexis had a passion for physical and mental health, with an interest in self-improvement and cosmetics. Alexis planned to go to medical school following her graduation, but first, she wanted to take a gap year before settling down. And this is what led her to move to Houston in the year 2017. It was during this time that she worked at a local Twin Peaks bar. For those of you outside of America, Twin Peaks is quite similar to Hooters, and typically hosts lightly dressed women who serve drinks and food to customers. With her beauty, it is no surprise that she gained a lot of attention from customers, and many of them would pay her rather large tips, which allowed her to lead a lavish lifestyle outside of work. Alexis posted everything about herself and her life online, and it's through this social media presence that she would eventually become best known. And to this day, her Instagram account has amassed more than 78,000 followers.
Wow.
On this account, she would post the more luxurious parts of her life, including holidays with her girlfriends, days out for brunch, and dozens of glamour shots of her wearing various designer outfits. She would also post about health choices on her story, though, of course, she would never say no to the odd glass of champagne with the girls. It was during her social media journey that she would eventually meet Tom Sharkey, a 49-year-old bodybuilder who would often visit the bar where she worked.
I just want to ask a question, y'all. Just want to put something in y'all brain real quick. How y'all feel about that age gap between them? She 26, I think Coffee Man said. He 49. It's at least a 20-year age gap. How y'all feel about that? And then I think you gotta take in consideration of what age they actually is, because a 70, or let's just say 80, a 80 and a 60-year age gap is different than a 40 and a 20-year age gap. You know what I'm saying, man? I don't really know how I feel about it, other than they both grown, and if they really in freaking love with each other, more power to them. At least in this case, man. But we know that it's not finna turn out like that, so it kind of make me not even want to say that. But I just wonder, man, like how people feel about different age gaps when it comes to people being in a relationship. Sometimes it seems just totally off, and sometimes it's like, okay, it's a little weird, but it's okay. Y'all get what I'm saying? Let's go.
20 years older than she was, Tom was born in Fort Myers, Florida. and according to him, he studied at the School of Hard Knocks. With that said, it is no surprise that little is known about his education. Now, Tom was no stranger to women. He maintained plenty of relationships throughout the decades, one of which resulted in a baby daughter who, by the time this case takes place, was now a fully grown adult. Although the relationship with her mother would eventually come to an end, he fully supported his daughter both emotionally and financially. After all, Tom was a consultant in the oil industry, and having this well-paying job not only allowed him to travel across the globe, but also look after his family. This is likely one of the many factors that drew Alexis towards him. She had always loved to travel, and had long dreamed of finding a job that would allow her to move around freely. In addition to this, Tom was not just a charismatic man with a larger-than-life personality, but was also very popular amongst the locals. So, accompanied by his well-built physique, it is quite understandable why Alexis would have been drawn to him. After meeting—
And another thing real quick, y'all, because talking about the age gap, another thing I want to say that make this case like different is the fact that most of the time with these age gaps, the woman always be the freaking one who go after the older men. You know what I'm saying? Like, let me say it like this. It be like the older men always be like in they freaking 60s, 70s, 80s, and it be like the younger woman, the one who been with this man because she really just waiting on his ass to die so she can get the life insurance. Long story short, story long, you know what I'm saying? But in this situation, I don't feel like it's really that way. I feel like it is him who went after her, and it's not really about life insurance because he's older, he's 20 years older than her, but he not about to croak over no time soon, and I don't think she care anything about life insurance with him in this case. So this is a different one than what we usually see with these young women marrying these old ass men, just waiting on them to die so they can take all their millions. Let's go.
At the bar, Tom slid into her DMs to ask for tips and tricks about fitness. You see, with her being a nutritional expert and him being a bodybuilder, they had plenty to talk about. Tips turned into compliments, compliments into flirting, and before they knew it, a relationship had blossomed. Fast forward to December of 2019, and they were married. During that time, Tom carefully observed Alexis and her social media before eventually deciding to join in on that virtual facade. And from then on, the two would portray a very happy life together. The pair adored each other, and as far as anyone knew, they were in the process of living happily ever after. Or so everyone thought. And now, it would seem that the pair had been ripped apart in the most tragic and sad of circumstances. By the time his wife had been identified, she had been missing for well over 24 hours. A very crucial period for any disappearance, and the evidence that goes with it. As part of all homicide investigations, detectives first looked towards her closest friends and relatives for information. And so, it was no surprise that her husband, Tom Sharkey, was the first to be questioned. Now, as far as anybody knew, Tom was the last person to see his wife alive. And as most of you will already know by now, a spouse is often the most influential person to a homicide investigation. Detectives were keen to know exactly what happened, at least from his perspective. And so, Tom's story is as follows. According to him, Alexis had recently returned home after a holiday with friends in Tulum, Mexico, with her returning home just before Thanksgiving on November the 26th. Following her return, the pair decided to enjoy a romantic dinner together that evening. Apparently, it went very well, with the two heading to bed for fun before sleeping. However, Tom claimed that things took a very steep turn the next day, when on November the 27th, Alexis allegedly started drinking throughout the daytime. Now, this made no sense to her friends and family, and would have been highly out of character for Alexis. Quite simply, she wasn't built that way. Tom admitted that he didn't know why she was day drinking, and further asserted that the two never argued. He also claimed that Alexis tried to drive under the influence and that he tried to stop her. As a result, she stormed away on foot. In an interview, Tom would also say, "She understood me. I understood her. We didn't fight when she left. I just told her that she couldn't drive under the influence. She left anyhow. When she failed to return the next day, he notified her parents of the situation, who, in response, contacted the authorities. But her mother, Stacy, was perplexed about the situation. She had spoken to Alexis only 3 days prior, and Alexis seemed happy. After reporting her disappearance to the authorities, Tom, Stacy, and her friends took to social media to try and find her. And her mother, who posted on Facebook, said, "Please share this post. My daughter, Alexis Sharkey, is missing. No one has heard from her for over 24 hours, and police are involved. She has lived in Houston, Texas since January, and that is where she was last seen. Please help us find her and bring her home safely. We are so very desperate. Please share." As you know, Alexis had a relatively large following online, and so, with such an audience, she was often attached to her phone. As a result, her friends would usually see her appear online, not just through Instagram, but through other apps and platforms too. However, her friends would also report that, ever since she disappeared on the evening of the 27th, she had not been seen online. Furthermore, she hadn't replied to any of her messages or posted anything on her profile. To add to that, all messages and phone calls were ignored.
It's just like over time, man, everybody just gotta accept the fact that she more than likely is deceased. You know what I'm saying, man? Her family, her friends, because she real popular on social media. She one of those type that's always active every day on social media. And for her to just vanish and then still, because we all, most of us, I'll say most of us, let me not say all, but most of us, we have Facebook Messenger and stuff like that, where if you click on somebody's name or something, it'll say like active an hour ago, active just now, active 30 minutes ago or something. And for them to see that a whole day go by and she has not been active, not answering the phone, don't know where she at, it get to that point where you just like, man, she more than likely had lost her life. But another thing I want to say to y'all, as far like the dude whole freaking explanation of what happened, talking about she got drunk and all that, yeah, that's crazy. But the craziest thing that he said at that moment that stand out to me is, we never argued. We never argued. We never argue. Well, you never was in a relationship, because if you're in a relationship with somebody, you gonna argue sometime. I don't give a damn what nobody say, man. Hey, if you in a relationship with somebody, you gonna have some disagreements. So that's just lying right there. He capping like a mother. But let's go, y'all. Let's go.
During the initial 24 hours, Tom frantically contacted his wife's many friends to ask if they had seen or had heard from her. Many recall him being extremely erratic, but the thing that concerned them the most was how his story seemed to change over the hours. You see, at first, Tom claimed that they had argued, but a couple hours later he denied such allegations, and then he said that she'd left barefoot and alone. A couple hours after that, she'd apparently got into the back of a car, never to be seen again. And despite
That's what I was saying, man. The man's story just all over the place. We never argued. Then he talking about we argue. Like, what?
seeming extraordinarily panicked about the situation, Tom was never actually the one to report her as missing to the authorities, something you'd expect a husband to do for his wife. However, before much else could happen, and on the morning of November the 28th, a body matching her description had been found, and, as we know, she was identified shortly after. Although the cause of her death was initially unknown, it was initially speculated that she had either been poisoned or had taken her own life through an overdose. The latter was simply unbelievable to her family and friends. Alexis was happy, and she was very excited about the future. Despite all of those close to her being interviewed, none of them were identified as a potential suspect in her murder. However, they would all say the same thing, that she was happy, healthy, and had no history of drug abuse. Throughout these interviews, there was one small story that caught the interest of detectives. One of her friends who had traveled with Alexis to Mexico revealed that Alexis had confided in her about her rather rocky marriage with Tom. Apparently, despite her social media portraying a beautiful love story, things were not quite as they seemed behind closed doors. And further problems in their marriage were proven when, in Mexico, Alexis took a liking to one of the local DJs. They ended up spending a lot of time together that week. However, she did not pursue anything too romantic or sexual, as Alexis did not want to be unfaithful to her husband. Quite honestly, it isn't clear what precisely happened between them, but Alexis's wondering eyes confirmed her perspective of the rocky relationship with Tom. And apparently, she never wanted to do anything that could anger Tom, as he could be rather intimidating at times. In fact, she would even tell her friend that she sometimes feared for her life. Sadly, there was a truth to Alexis's confession. After delving into the couple's personal lives, detectives discovered that she and Tom were already in the process of filing for divorce, which, up until this point in time, they had kept quiet from friends and family. Despite this, the divorce was not deemed to be a motive for Tom to cause any harm to Alexis. After all, he was posting all over social media about how much he loved his wife. And now, with her sudden death, he instead was actively mourning his loss. However, the strange thing is that, despite her passing away only a few days prior, he was already beginning to depict Alexis as a troubled woman online, which is highly odd. I mean, who does that after just losing their partner? His efforts would not stop rumors from circling online that maybe Tom had something to do with her death. In fact, his strange behavior only seemed to perpetuate it. Followers—
Exactly, man. Like, he think he doing that to try to change the narrative of what's really done happened to her. Dude, all you doing is pointing a finger at you by being all weird and not acting like that you really just lost your wife. You trying to change the whole freaking thing up, and the thing is pointing back at you.
And friends knew Alexis, and they were appalled to see Tom paint her in such a negative light. And when Tom's story began to sway and deviate from the authorities, it was sure to leave them suspicious too. The strange but unsurprising thing is, the more that Tom bashed his dead wife's personality online, the more her own crowd seemed to defend her. And before he knew it, he had multiple death threats. And as time went by, more suspicion seemed to be growing around Tom too. You see, despite being held in the coroner's office for more than 2 weeks already, Alexis's body was yet to be released. And that's because Tom was listed as her next of kin. And so, naturally, it was up to him what happened to the body. And despite Tom already agreeing with her parents that she could be flown back and then buried with the rest of her family, he had not yet contacted them or the coroner's office. With all the delays, Stacy clearly had enough. Tom was now ignoring her entirely, and so she decided to contact the authorities and demand answers too. Unfortunately though, they were also met in silence from him. In fact, Tom had stopped cooperating with the police altogether. In an act of mercy, the medical examiner changed her next of kin over to her mother, so she could finally be laid to rest. As a result, Alexis's funeral took place on December the 19th, 2020, and, no surprise, was kept a secret from Tom. Not that it mattered. Him vanishing aside, he never asked. This prompted the authorities to dig deeper into the investigation. And finally, on the 19th of January 2021, the cause of her death was finally publicly revealed. Autopsy results concluded that Alexis had likely died due to strangulation, therefore deeming her case to be a homicide. I mean, I'd argue that was kind of obvious from the very beginning. After all, how had she ended up dead, naked, and carefully arranged under a bush if this was all just simply an overdose? Anyway, with the change in the manner of her death, the police had fresh authority to investigate and detain any potential suspect. And, as you can imagine, by now there was only one person in the spotlight. However, by the time her case was officially declared to be a homicide, they had lost track of the only person they were interested in. As a result, it took months for officers to finally track Tom down. And it turns out that he had fled Texas shortly after his wife's death.
I just gotta point out that Tom has, throughout this whole case, has made himself more and more guilty. Like, he just looked guilty as fuck, y'all. Like, dude, why in the hell have you just abandoned this whole case? You know what I'm saying? This was your freaking wife and you just done skipped town. Why are you skipping town, Tom? Huh? Because you freaking did it. That's why.
This extraordinarily quiet. and his social media, which had since turned silent, did not allude to anywhere he had run to. However, you can't run from the law forever, and they would eventually track him down in Georgia. After several attempts to contact him over the phone, Tom finally agreed to submit a DNA sample in August of 2021. And you can probably guess what I'm going to say next, but Tom never attended this appointment.
Wow.
Now, please correct me if you think otherwise, but it's not hard for anyone to assume that Tom likely knew more about his wife's death than he was willing to let on. I mean, his story had changed multiple times, he had smeared her personality and character online, he was no longer contacting her family or the detectives, and when asked for a DNA sample, he failed to show up. None of these things described the actions of an innocent man. And so, with that in mind, Tom became a primary suspect. And furthermore, he seemed to have the means, motive, and opportunity to kill Alexis. Throughout their investigation, detectives realized that Tom actually had a history of domestic violence against her. And so, maybe that divorce was not as amicable as they initially thought. And so, on September the 29th, the authorities finally obtained a warrant for his arrest, and the hunt for Tom Sharkey officially began. And thankfully, it wouldn't take long for detectives to finally track him down. They believed he was staying with his daughter in Fort Myers, Florida. Police officers had to be very careful in conducting their investigations. Tom was now a fugitive of the law, and his reaction to cops showing up at his doorstep was entirely unpredictable. Undercover officers would carefully watch the house from afar, and on October the 5th, their suspicions were finally confirmed. Over this time frame, Tom was seen exiting and entering the home on multiple occasions. It turns out that he appeared to be relying on his daughter to unknowingly help him avoid the law. In an effort not to lose him, officers planned to storm the property the next day once they could confirm he was still in the home. Marshals surrounded the house in preparation to enter. After knocking on the door, Tom's daughter answered and was briskly pushed aside in their rapid search for Tom. And after clearing the bottom floor, there was no sign of him whatsoever. That is when the authorities learned just how unpredictable this man really was. Because, without any possible time to intervene, a gunshot echoed from the second floor. Upon ascending the stairs and storming the bedroom from which the noise came from, officers found his freshly lifeless body. By shooting—
Oh my freaking God, y'all. What a freaking plot twist. This motherfucker asshole. Let me stop cussing so much, man. This dude freaking killed himself, man, when the authorities finally caught up to his murdering ass. I had to let another one out real quick, y'all. I had to let another one of them cuss words out, man. I did not see that coming. See, I hate these fuck it. I gotta let cuss words out right now. I hate these motherfuckers who sit up here and murder people and then you're so fucking scared of facing the fucking consequences till you kill yourself. And see, this the only gratification that I kind of feel, and this maybe just be in my brain, because I think they be trying to be smart and be being cowardly, like they ain't gotta face the consequences here on our earth. They ain't gotta face those consequences, but guess what, motherfucker? Now you gotta meet the maker. Now you got to meet the maker, and the maker gonna make you feel it way more than what you'll feel on Earth. I'm calm now. I just had to get that out, y'all, because what the fuck, man? Dude end up killing himself, fucking bitch. Fuck that. Let's go.
Shooting himself in the head, he had taken the opportunity to keep control of the situation for one final time. This, of course, all but confirming that he was responsible for murdering his wife. Although he was still warm to the touch when officers found him, there was nothing they could do to bring him back. He was pronounced dead at the scene, bringing an end to the tragic case of Alexis Sharkey.
Man, you don't need to bring him back. You don't need to bring him back.
As a result, the family of Alexis will never truly know what happened to their daughter. But like I said, Tom's death basically solidifies his guilt. But how he murdered her, or why precisely, we unfortunately will never know. The only two people that could provide these details are sadly no longer around. Now, interestingly enough, there was no evidence found in the home or either of their cars to directly link Tom to her murder. and so, theoretically, he could have gone to trial and been found not guilty. However, his actions, especially his final one, speak far louder than any of his false words. And so, unfortunately, we are left with nothing more than a theory, but the authorities assume that the couple must have had an argument which sadly sent Tom over the edge. And I mean, there were many reasons as to why he may have been upset. For example, maybe he was upset at the divorce, or maybe he'd found out about her crush in Mexico. And so it is assumed that this was likely a case of domestic violence. And Tom, not only did he have the history to back this up, but he was also triple her size. Alexis harbored her relationship struggles in secrecy, and the sad truth is that, if she had confided in her loved ones, she might have found the love and support that she needed to survive. Unfortunately, domestic violence, or intimate partner violence, is all too prevalent, and is indiscriminate of age, gender, or sexuality. And although domestic violence is often imagined with a female victim, mental and emotional abuse are equally experienced both ways. Suspicions over Tom's controlling behavior had long lingered with Alexis's family, and sadly, these suspicions were tragically validated after her passing. Despite Tom's facade of happiness, success, and a thriving social circle, her family and friends always remained quietly skeptical. Devastatingly, they had no idea how deep his toxicity actually ran. Alexis was on the brink of liberating herself from the evil grip of her abusive husband. Divorce papers awaited signatures on dotted lines, and she was about to break free until a sick and twisted fate intervened. She had an abundance of life ahead, before she was cruelly snatched away by the very person who was entrusted to cherish and protect her. While her cowardly killer may have avoided his punishment by taking his own life, it does ensure that he will never hurt another woman again. One way to look at it is, should he have gotten away with her murder at trial, then who knows who he may have hurt in the future. And I don't say this with vengeance, pride, or happiness, but maybe this was just another case of the trash taking itself out. Anyway folks, I think that pretty much covers our case today. However, before I go, I'd love to know what you think about this case. Do you think that Tom was guilty? And do you think that him taking his own life basically confirms this? As always, let me know in the comments section down below, and while you're there, let me know what country you're messaging from. Thank you for watching folks, and thank you to June's Journey for sponsoring this video. To get started, click the link in the description below, or scan the QR code on screen. To get early access to my videos, check out my Patreon, or alternatively, check out my social media here. Thank you again so much for watching folks, and as always, see you again very soon for another one. Until the moment arrives though, remember to look after yourself, look after each other, and of course, stay safe. Thank you, and goodbye.
My brothers and sisters, Bean Team, let me tell y'all, at the end of this one, I just got pissed the fuck off. I'm still pissed off, man. Hide the children, cause I know I be cussing and I be trying to watch my cussing sometime, but a lot of F-bombs and S-words probably finna come out of me right now. Because, dude, I hate these. It's two things. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of things, but I'm just thinking about two things that really piss me off with these fucking videos that we be watching. One of them is the freaking parents that murder their kids. That's one of them that just pissed me the F off. No, I can think of another one too. Another one is when these freaking murderers get off. They get off from it. You know what I'm saying? Not that they get off. They may go to prison for a couple of years, 10 years, whatever. But before you know it, they back on the streets. That pissed me off too. But in this particular case, these freaking people who kill people and then they kill themselves before they can face any type of consequences pisses me the F off, y'all. I ain't lying, man. That, like, the end, it just was like, are you kidding me? And Alexis was such a beautiful young lady, and she looked like she had a great future in front of her, man. Like, she just had that look of greatness, you know what I'm saying? And you take greatness away from the world, and then you decide to take your sorry ass away from the world. You should have took your sorry ass away from the world from the beginning and left her here. Like, why the freak you killing people? Then now you want to kill yourself. That's why I was like, when the police was there was Coffee Man said the police, there was no way to bring Tom back. That's why I was like, shit, don't try to bring him back. Let his ass go. He should have been gone and let her stay here. You know what I'm saying? Kill yourself. Don't kill no goddamn body else. I'm sorry, man. That's just how I freaking feel, y'all. I ain't expect this, my brothers and sisters, at this end. This ending just got me pissed off. I freaking hate that, man. I hate when they do that, y'all. And we have watched so many videos and heard of so many stories, and when I be saying videos and stories, I really be saying that, but at the same time, I also can say live events, like real events. This is real. You know what I'm saying? This is stuff that really happens, man. It might not be happening in our lives, in our circles, where we at, you know what I'm saying, in our different predicaments or whatever, but out there somewhere, there is a lady whose name Alexis who died from a freaking, I don't even want to let all those words out. You know what I'm saying? Who died from this freaking monster. Let me just call him a monster man who was too cowardly to face the consequences here on earth. And like I said, man, I just feel it in my heart, man, because I'm a believer in a creator. I'm a believer in God, man. And I feel like God gonna make these motherfuckers who do this bullshit like this suffer the consequences one way or the other. But I digress. I'm finna go let y'all go now, man. Jesus freaking Christ, y'all. This was a great video from our boy Adrian from Coffeehouse Crime. I appreciate y'all coming on back as always. Before y'all leave, just please hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and do all that if you ain't did that yet. And come on back tomorrow for another The Wi-Fi Saturday. But until then, my friends, remember freaking this. Love, peace, and happiness. Stay safe. Don't stop. Keep going. Yeah.